My dear students, today's lesson is about Conditional Sentences Type 1.
Let's begin with the objectives of the lesson. At the end of this video, students will be able to: number 1, identify the rule structure of the Conditional Sentences Type 1. Number 2, recognize the if clause and the main clause by filling the gaps activity. In English, we have 4 types of conditional sentences, and they are: zero conditional sentences, first conditional sentences, and they call it also conditional sentences type 1. Second conditional sentences, third conditional sentences. Why do we use conditional sentences type 1? We use conditional sentences type 1 when we want to express situations which are likely to happen in the present or the future. And now let's begin with the rule structure of the conditional sentences type 1. We begin with if, the conditional tool, then we have to use the present simple sentence, then a comma, do not forget a comma, then future simple sentence. The present simple sentence begins with subject plus verb 1 plus minus s. What that means, that if the subject is one of the third person singular and they are he, she, or it, we have to add s with the verb. For example, the verb play, we have to add s with it if the subject is one of the third person singular. We say it like that: he plays, she plays, it plays. Then we add the complement, and we call this part of the conditional sentence the if clause. Why do we call it if clause? Because it begins with if with the conditional tool. A clause is a meaningless sentence that needs another clause. Then we have to add a comma, then the future simple sentence begins with a subject plus a modal verb such as will, can, may, might, must. Then verb 1, the base form of the verb, then a complement. And we call this part the main clause. For example, if you study hard, comma, you will pass the exam. If you study hard, you will pass the exam. If, we begin with if, you is the subject, study is the verb, but we didn't add s with it because you is not one of the third person singular. Hard is a complement. Do not forget the comma. Then the future simple sentence, you is the subject, will, pass is verb 1, which is the base form of the verb. The exam is the complement. Punctuating conditional sentences. Despite the complex nature of conditional sentences, punctuating them properly is really simple. Use a comma if you start with the if clause. For example, if you study hard, you will pass the exam. Here, as you see here, the first clause is the if clause, and the second clause is the main clause. Here we begin with the if clause, that's why we write the comma, but on the other hand, do not use a comma if you start with the main clause, which is vice versa. You will pass the exam if you study hard. Here, as you see, we begin with the main clause, then the if clause. Here in this point, we do not write a comma here, we omit it because we begin with the main clause, not the if clause. Words that can replace if: unless, that means if not, before, after, when, until, and as soon as. And now let's do some exercises. Complete the conditional sentences type 1 by putting the verbs into the correct form. The first thing that we have to do is to know where is the if clause and where is the main clause in order to answer these questions. Here we have the if and there is the comma. It's okay here, which tells us that this clause is the if clause, and the other clause is the main clause. The if clause needs verb 1 plus or minus s, which depends on the subject. This is a subject, where the main clause needs will plus verb 1. If I want to answer these questions using the verbs between the brackets, here we have to look to the subject in the if clause. You is not one of the third person singular, that's why we have to write the verb as it is, which is you. If you send this letter now, she will receive it tomorrow. And here we have another example. If I do this test, because I is not one of the third person singular, I will improve my English. If I find your ring, comma, I will give it back to you. In the fourth example and the fifth example, here the main clause precedes the if clause. That means we have to change the clauses, and we have to write here the future simple sentence and here the present simple sentence. Ali will go shopping if he. The verb have is the base form, but if I wanna write it with he, because he is one of the third person singular, we have to write it as has. Layla will go to London next week if she, and here the subject is one of the third person singular, we have to add s with the verb. If they, let's go to the negative of these clauses or of these tenses, the present simple and the future simple. Here we want to negate present here we have to, this is a present simple. The present simple sentence, if I want to negate it, I have to use do with not or does with not. It depends on the subject. Here the subject is not one of the third person singular, that's why we have to use do. So do not study. And here the future simple sentence, we have to use will. So will with not, it becomes won't with verb want, so it will be won't pass the exam. If Hamad has the money, he will buy a Ferrari. If I find her address, I will send her an invitation. I will finish that letter if I have time. Thank you for watching this video and have a nice day.